Tonight on the Henry Rollins Show, we sit down with legendary author Gore Vidal to talk about the state of our union and the price America will pay for Bush's crimes. Then, an exclusive musical performance from Gogol Bordello. It's going to be a great show, folks. Stay here. It's hard to get through a news program without hearing the results of the latest poll on elections, popularity, or the war conducted by the likes of Zogby, Gallup, or whoever else decides there's good money in asking people simple questions. The cynic in me knows that I should not take any poll too seriously, as you can get wildly different results on the same question if you just ask people in a different bar than the one you started in. So why do we bother with polls? Because people need to know if others agree or disagree with them, since they don't think their own opinion is enough. But does it give you any comfort to be in any poll's majority or minority? Do you know anyone who's ever been polled? If you knew who was really being polled, would you then care if you were in the majority? Knowing they can't be all that accurate, do you ever wonder why politicians study them so carefully instead of just saying what they mean and meaning what they say? I wonder if some polls are not conducted at all and results are just made up by some pollster with an angle. Polls don't always just ask about opinions. Sometimes they create them. Remember when McCain ran against Bush and South Carolinians were polled if they would be more or less likely to vote for him if they knew he had fathered an illegitimate black child? McCain and his wife had in fact adopted an orphan child from Bangladesh. But the damage was done, and so was McCain. And it was all in a dirty pollster's day's work. The president's opinion poll numbers are low. Does it mean anything besides people are sick of reading about bad news from Iraq? I don't think so. But then again, who knows what to trust? What if President Bush's approval ratings all of a sudden skyrocketed to 98%? Would you feel any different about the legitimacy of a poll that used to agree with you? I have come to the conclusion that all I can do is get all the information as best as I can and make my decisions accordingly. Polls to me are at best an abstract and obstruct one from being an opinionated motherfucker. Now go poll that and get back to me. No, don't. Gore Vidal is joining us tonight. Beginning his long career with the novel Willowa some 60 years ago, Mr. Vidal has become a cultural icon with his widely respected novels and unbridled social and political commentary. As one of the more articulate and outraged critics of our nation's current political situation, it is my deep pleasure to welcome him on the show. Mr. Vidal, thank you for coming in.
Thank you very much.
You've had an incredibly prolific career, novels, screenplays, essays. What does the word retirement mean to you?
Death. You know, if you're a writer for life, it's unlucky to be one, and I am one. But you can't stop. You just go on and on and on. And then one day, the light goes out. And we're back to Rock Creek Cemetery.
Yes. You wrote the foreword to the Conyers report on the Ohio votes. Ohio, swing state, very important in the 2004 election. A lot of people have a lot of questions and criticisms about the voting in that state. Why did you write the preface, and what's important to know about what happened in Ohio?
Well, Conyers, who was the ranking Democrat on the Judiciary Committee in the House of Representatives, he couldn't call witnesses. He couldn't have hearings because the Republicans don't allow you to examine anything they do. They won't even let you discuss it because they cut you off. So on his own, he went up to Ohio with some good detectives and lawyers and so forth to see what had actually happened. Well, what went wrong there was everything that you can dream of. People were not told there was an election. People were told they couldn't vote because they were felons and they'd had a jaywalking offense against them, which is, like a capital offense. And so the book went unnoticed. Now, the media is totally corrupt, as ours is. And the bigger the media, the greater the corruption. The less apt you are to be noticed when you come in with the bad news that Ohio's election was fixed, as was Florida's 4 years before that. So that's how I got there. Anyway, I came to know, at least over the telephone, Congressman Conyers, who's now the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, and I hope he'll be watching us and send out a few subpoenas, to get people to chat about what they have done wrong.
What do you think will happen in 2008? Do you have any confidence for that vote to have any integrity?
No. Republicans have now had 8 years since 2000 to perfect corruption. It's totally perfected. They had the Diebold machine. They had the black box. They had miscounted votes due to electronic devices going mad. They know how to do it, and they're going to do it. No, it's going to be a totally dishonest election, and at some point, the American people will wake up, God knows when. We do our best in our small ways to alert people. But when they do, they're going to be very angry. We lost the Republic totally. Most of the Bill of Rights has been erased. The second we lost habeas corpus in the courts, that means we don't have due process of law, which is what the whole country was based upon.
What do you think of the idea of impeachment of President Bush? Because that is, I rarely hear anyone talk about impeaching Cheney, but what's always on talk radio or in op-eds is to impeach President Bush, yes or no. And some people say, there's only like 18 months to go. Let's just get him out of there. It'll take too much time. It won't be effective.
Yeah, but he can get us blown up in the next 18 months. I'm a wartime president. I'm a wartime president. I mean, when that little thing starts to strut around, wartime president. There is no war. Why doesn't somebody stop him? Where's the war other than what you make?
Yeah.
What Bush has done is put every American at risk. Wherever you live, wherever you work, you're apt to be blown up in the night by everything he's done wrong to enrage Islam, the Arab world. The Arabs didn't declare war on the United States. That is an invention of the oil and gas junta, which is in control of our politics. They want us to believe that. They hate it when people like me compare them to Adolf Hitler, but they're just like Hitler. I was alive in the 30s. I was very much aware of what was going on. Hitler would always start out, Sudeten Germans are being murdered in Czechoslovakia. We must invade to save our fellow countrymen, unser Volk. We must save them from the wicked Czechs. Czechs hadn't done a damn thing. He did the same thing with Poland. He did the same whenever he was on the attack. Now they have a new number. I see, village idiots like McCain. I mean, he should be put away somewhere. Talking about bombing Iran.
Yeah.
Boy, he's so gutsy, He's a great hero because he was taken prisoner. Yeah, well, how did they get him as a prisoner? What did he do wrong? What was wrong with his mission? They caught him. They kept him in a box for several years. Didn't teach him a damn thing.
What do you think has been the biggest affront to democracy with this administration?
Well, the fact that it has never been properly elected by the people. Fraud got them in 2000 and 2004, another fraud, maintained them in power. So really, it's an illegitimate government. It was not the choice of the American people. American people don't make mistakes like that. We do dumb things, or we're negligent often, but We would never pick. Can you imagine George Washington being in favor of preemptive wars? That you attack your neighbor? We did that only once in our history before these jokers, and that was 1846 when we attacked Mexico in order to
Get California.
get California. Here we're sitting in the middle of stolen Mexican land here. Luckily, the Mexicans are filling it up on their own. So we may have to move on one day.
Let's talk about this this thing that it's very important to me. For many years now, for decades, you've been talking about America as an empire. You were saying that in the 70s.
60s.
Okay, 60s. Let's talk about America and empire and make people understand that.
Well, you have to begin by understanding what we are, or what we tried to be, which was a republic, using electoral democratic processes to elect people. But we were imitators of Rome. The great thinker who influenced Jefferson and Madison, the inventors of our republic, was a Frenchman, a philosopher of the Enlightenment, as they called it, les Lumières. And what he preached was that you cannot maintain both a republic and an empire simultaneously. One or the other has got to go. So his advice was, don't take on the empire part. Don't arm yourself to the teeth. Don't have enemies all over the place. General Washington was of that school. And he said, nations, like individuals, must not have great affections or great hatreds elsewhere in the world. A nation only has one thing. It has interests. And as a republic, we have our interests. We have people, we should have good relations with everybody, do business with everybody. The founders knew perfectly well business was going to be our business, not tooling around the world building triumphal arches to ourselves. And then with 1846 and the Mexican War, we suddenly were in the empire business, and we never got out of it. And it has done us no good.
So in 2007, with no money in the bank, and a president that seems to find enemies everywhere and want to start fires all over the world, the idea of empire, to me, at least, is that thing that crumbles and eventually falls over.
Well, of course it does.
And so where do you see America in that situation?
Well, I have predicted, but my predictions are getting more and more wrong. I have predicted that it'll take 2 generations to get the republic back, which the Bushites got rid of. We have to get the habeas corpus back. We have to get due process of law. That you cannot be held, your money cannot be taken away from you, even with taxation, without due process of law. And that is the foundation, it's Magna Carta, it's the foundation of the Republic of the United States. It's gone. And nobody mourned it. Where were the voices? If we had a non-corrupt media, that was the media's task to explain this to people. But our media is totally corrupt and totally in the service of the Bushites. The judiciary should have spoken out against the loss of the Bill of Rights. They all want judgeships. So they're waiting for a corrupt president, to make a corrupt lawyer a federal judge. So they don't speak out. Who does? Writers for life. Biggest fools on earth, I can testify.
Well, sir, I must say, I carry thousands of your words around with me all over the world in my trusty laptop. I have many of your books that have been read and reread, and you're one of my heroes and one of my teachers. And it's fantastic to have you on the show. Thank you very much, sir. Coming up later in the show, an exclusive musical performance from Gogol Bordello. But first, here's Janine Garofalo with this week's Disquisition.
I resent that the corporation, with the help of the corporatist Republican administration and the conservative ideologies that come out of the think tanks, I resent that what this is all about is shifting the burden away from the corporation and onto the individual. It's not an ownership society, it's a society for the owners. That is exactly what it is. They don't want to have an educated middle class. They don't want to have protections for the elderly or the infirm or the quote-unquote weakest among us. What they want to have, the so-called conservatives or right-wingers or corporatists or corporate fascists or whatever you want to call them, or authoritarians, they would like to have a huge gap between the haves and have-nots, a huge one. And they would like to have a debilitated public school system because that way you have, a less educated voter or non-voter, and you have many more people that's options are so limited that they must go into the military. And don't give me any of this nonsense about saying that that's critical of the military. Because I will say to you, please kiss my fat black ass. If you don't understand how the corporation works, if you don't understand the tax code, if you don't understand how free speech and money are the same thing, money literally talks in the political process, if you don't understand who owns your politician at the civic level and at the national level, then you might as well, I don't know. It's very strange because people will make time to floss. They'll make time to go to the gym. They'll make time to join a fantasy sports league. They'll make time to scrapbook. I know a lot of people are into scrapbooking. No G on the end, just an N. Makes it more fun. They will make time to, what else do people make time to do? I personally don't have any hobbies or anything. So, I make jewelry. I do make jewelry. It's the most important thing you can do is learn about how our political process works, to learn about how the corporation works, not just nationally, but internationally, to learn how the tax code works and doesn't work, to learn about the geopolitical process and about the monetary system in this country. If you could at least learn about it, you have some mechanism of defense. And that's a start.
Tonight's musical guest is Gogol Bordello from New York City's Lower East Side. You can call their style of music gypsy punk, and by their instrumentation and Eastern European extraction, you might have something there. But they're also a great explosion of musical intensity and perfectly suited for our show. Here to play 60 Revolutions off their critically acclaimed album, Gypsy Punk's Underdog World Strike, this is Gogol Bordello, live and uncut.
Revolutions per minute. This is my regular speed. How do you want me to live with it? How do you want me to live with it? Without ringing all alarms, without overthrowing stars, without emptying the bars. I will through it with your jars. 60 revolutions per minute. This is my regular need. How do you want me to live with it? How do you want me to live with it? Without ringing all alarms, without overthrowing stars, without emptying the bars. I wanna do it with your chance. I'm gathering new generation that's gonna stop it. Do this karaoke dictatorship. What posers and models with guitars. Boogie to the shit for beats. I am making a better rock revolution alone with my dick. Yeah. I will not overthrowing stars without emptying the bars. I wanna fucking with your chance. Are you ready for that? minuto es mi reputación que digo, no te estoy hablando de la revolución. Hace mucho tiempo que no te decía, trata de contestar muerte policía. Trata de contestar muerte policía. Diga lo que diga, ya te va a largar de estado, digo, pasa lo que pasa, ya te matan de por nada. Porque tiene el policía, el dispone, bien que se pone, yo no se la come. Vale, 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 que se la come. Vale, 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 yo no se la come. Vale, 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 que se la come. Vale, 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 yo no se la come. Ya eso se le come. Solidaridad nacional, este rumbo, compa. A solidario, y una más. Fuera, fuera, fuera. Ya no se la come. Vale, 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 ya no se la come. Vale, 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 ya no se la come. Cha-cha-cha.
That's our show for tonight. Thanks again to our guests, Gogol, Bordello, and Gore, Vidal. We'll see you next time.